Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Hope you're all well,
Yay.
happy, contented,
Yes.
full of life,
Mm.
because you are that life. And realize the life itself is only one life.
Mm.
There is nothing but life. No room for death in it, if it's non-dual, if it's one without a second. How could there be any opposite? And out of life, more life continually comes. Life lives on life. And that's what Christ told you. You are the way. I am the way. I am the truth. I am the life. Not talking about himself. He's talking about that sense of presence, which expresses through the mind as the thought I am. I am is the primary sound, Om. And that is life itself. Vibration, the movement, somewhat of a movement that vibrates in that awareness, the screen, which is silent and empty, but it's a cognizing emptiness. It is suffused with intelligence, a knowing. And that knowing, the ing on it makes it an activity. It's moving, seeming somewhat of a movement, vibrating. And you know what can happen with a vibration.
Yeah.
You've got a guitar string and you pluck it, it vibrates. What does it do? It makes a sound. And that sound is a musical note. And a song can come from that, a melody. What other musical things there are. And sound coming out of these bodies, vibrating through the throat, the voice box, becomes words. And we put meaning into the words and take the word to be real. And that's part of the problem. There is no problem if it's really understood. There never has been any problem in the non-dual cosmos, the one without a second. Or, as Benki put it, the unborn Buddha mind. What was born? The sound, those noises that were made were put into words. And we've taken the word to be the real. And we've discriminated those sounds or words, divided the indivisible, put meaning into them. What's I? I is singular. But we seem to believe that there are many separate I's. But what did Christ say again? If your eye be single, then your body shall be full of light. That light or life, the energy, that's all that light is energy. It is light. And that energy shining through that body keeps it whole, complete, healthy and happy. Can be very joyous. And in its absoluteness, it's the one essence appearing as everything, and it is absolute. It is the great perfection. As I tell you, in Buddhism, the great perfection is non-conceptual awareness, not putting labels or names on these words, making concepts out of mental constructs. Instead of living in their natural state, that's of energy. Can't do much with I or me. It just sounds. But we take this sense of presence that's expressing, and the life expressing through it right now, as a sense of presence, immediacy. And we put the label on it, that sense of presence, we put that I am on it, the thought, the concept, the word. And we've seemingly separated ourselves with the word. But are those words real? Do they? The word water, can you drink it? The word fire, does it burn your mouth? You can't. You can't heat yourself with the word fire or cook with it. The word water, you can't swim in it, you can't wash in it, you can't quench your thirst with it. And we related to this pattern, this body-mind pattern, as me. Believe it, me is separate from everything else, separate and apart. The individual, the undivided, has become divided into a separate entity, indivisible, can't be divided. And dividing is another word, isn't it? Another label. Absolute's a word also. But what can you add to it?
Nothing.
What can you take away from it?
Not a thing.
So you must be that. And isn't that innately known? That's the great mantra, isn't it? I am that. And isn't that innately known within you already?
Yes.
That everything is that? Everything is already that. Because that's the body that you're in. That's the chair you're sitting on. That's the room you're in and the space you're in. And that's a tree in it. That's the flower in it. That's the cat.
Yeah.
It's pictures on the wall. Everything is already that. You know that.
Yeah.
But then again, that's not good enough for you. Seeing everything as that is just seeming then one little bit. We seemingly divide it again. I am a separate individual, a person. And that is something other than I am. What's divided it? The no word, can you divide it?
No. On that token, darling, we have a lot of Happy New Year wishes.
Thank you.
So from everyone and to everyone,
Yes.
you can elaborate on divisions and words using, honoring the social recognition of a seeming division into years.
Yeah.
Making it new and hopeful and all that goes with it.
What happened when it turned midnight on the seeming 31st of December? What was there, a big explosion? Oh.
Sometimes the fireworks.
It's just like the equator. I went across the equator many times when I was going to sea. Never at any time did the ship stop and somebody get out and open the gate to let you through to the other side of the equator. You wouldn't realise you're going over it. But the old year went and the new returned. Just another dawning of another day. But we hope and realise that it can be a beautiful year.
Mm-hmm. And Rohan says, happy ever fresh and ever new year.
That's correct. Thank you, Rowan. That's correct. Enjoy. And if we realise that's what's happening now, that you and I are ever fresh, ever new, presence awareness. Have you ever moved away from this presence? And you're not unaware right now, so it's a presence awareness. And you haven't moved away from it because it hasn't got any time, doesn't have any beginning, and hasn't got any ending.
Yes.
So it's transient, like everything else, constantly changing. Changes will appear, seemingly appear in the manifestation, which is appearance only. It's never anything other than appearance. Appearance is a phenomenal manifestation, what they say. The definition of phenomena is that which appears to be, or seems to be. Is not a word for appearance, it's seemingly so. And they call it all illusion. But realise the self that the illusion is illusory. Isn't that a thing? Subjects and objects. There can't be an object without a subject. And there can't be a subject without the object. Two different labels we put on the same thing. The same stick. No stick's got one end, it's got two ends. The good and the bad. It can't be the good without the bad. It can't be the bad without the good. What's dividing them? The words. The words which are not the real.
Yeah.
It's seemingly divided. The reality which is indivisible. It's undivided. Whole, complete, absolute. Yes. Needs to be recognised, grasped, and understood. That is what I am. I am that.
Yes.
And that is all there is. We can put many labels or many names on it. Call it God, call it awareness, call it Shiva, Allah, Christ, Buddha, Vishnu, Shiva, whatever else, all the different labels they've got for this thing, seeming thing. Even the thing's a label we've got on it, something, which is all patterning, shaping, forming, and vibrating into seeming things. An illusory illusion.
Yes.
But can something come from no thing? Because the basic screen, what can you say about awareness? It's another label for God, if you like. Like there are many labels for God. But can you say anything about it? Can you say what awareness is? What shape has it got? What form has it got? How long is it? How wide is it? Is there a centre to it or a circumference to it? But can you negate it? If you can't negate it, it must be. That's the basic screen in which all these things, pattern, shapes and forms are appearing in.
Yes.
Appearing in that no thing, not nothing, as they say, not a vacuum, a void, zero originals, but no thing, no shape, no circumference, no centre. Can't grasp it, you can't say anything at all about it.
Mm.
Can something come from nothing? It can't.
Mm.
So where does that leave you? Leaves me as I am,
Yes.
what I always have been and always will be. And doesn't that apply to the so-called you and everything else?
Yes.
You look into it and see it so.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing either good or bad unless thinking makes it so, is what Shakespeare, who understood or grasped it, could say.
Yes.
And this argument tells you the same thing in different words.
Mm.
When nothing, no thing can trouble you except in your own imagination.
Mm.
That's another word. Have a look at that word imagination. What's it mean? Break it down to imagine or image in. And that's what's going on in these so-called minds all the time. Constantly imaging in, imagining this, imagining that, conceptualizing this, conceptualizing something else. All false appearances, all false patterns, shapes and forms. Because the awareness cannot be touched, it can't be contaminated.
Mm.
So it's constantly ever fresh and ever new.
Mm.
But it's missed out on because we've learnt words, because we believe we had a beginning, we believe we were born, and we believe that somewhere along the line we will end, and that will be the death.
Mm.
But being is not becoming. Now, pinpoint a time when you began. You'll say, I began at birth.
Mm.
But did you?
No.
You had no words when you were born. So how can you say you began? Now you've got the concept or idea that I began. I hope that camera's not seeing that. Put my clock up there, will you?
Yes. Yes, so you didn't begin unless you had a concept.
Yeah. So, and when you look into it, though you believe you were born, when did you begin? Well, go back and have a look at your father and your mother. They are your so-called parents. That life essence, that intelligence energy, that beingness in your father, enabled in that pattern, through the food he's eaten, and through the prana, through the breath. The energy he's getting from the food and the life energy he's getting from the breath. Enabled in that pattern a little microscopic particle called a sperm to form, which you can't see with your naked eye. Yet it was suffused with an innate intelligence, innately knowing itself, and that innately being. It was suffused with that innate intelligence, that knowing. And the same with the patterns expressing through as your mother, enabled in that pattern through the life essence. And the prana and the food, enabled in that pattern a microscopic particle called an ovum, an egg to form. That ovum was suffused with intelligence also. And it attached itself to the wall of the uterus. It knew what to do. And the sperm knew what to do innately already within it. It knew to swim to the ovum and to penetrate the ovum. And the body knew what to do, to ejaculate, to throw it out, to get out there, to get to the sperm. So it gave it a start on its journey. And when those two came together, that's the innate intelligence in the two coming together doubled that soul. The two, seemingly two, had separated, but they became one again. And that one, and that soul doubled and redoubled, again through the essence of the food and the prana, coming from the mother, attached to the cord of the mother. And the little embryo, the little fetus, which is what you are today. But you've grown a bit since then, haven't you? You've changed.
Yes.
But it is the same life essence that was there then. Now, you can trace your father back and mother back to their father and mother and way back and way back. But forever. So there's beginningless beginning. And we don't take on a beginning till we learn words. Because that's what it tells us in the Bible. In the beginning was the Word.
Yeah.
Then we start reasoning things with the Word. The Word was with God. And the Word was God. This Word, God, we believe was something greater or higher or bigger than ourselves, or the one Creator. They were just a word. All things were made by Him, by the Word. All the so-called creation, we put words on and label them and differentiate them with the Word. Nothing was made that was made without the Word. And it's that Word, that body, mind, entity that's dwelling among us now, putting labels on it. So when you look at it and see that we're not this persona, which is a word, meaning a mask from ancient language, we're not this mask of concepts we put upon ourselves. You are the absolute reality. You've always been that and always will be. Satchitananda Nama Rupa in Hinduism, the Advaita teaching. Sat is existence, Chit is consciousness. Ananda is loving to be, or the bliss of being. And the Nama Rupa, the Nama is the name that's been put on us by our parents, or whoever named us. And the form is this body, pattern, this body, this open body, which is form, is the form. But it's all the five factors, it's all that existence, consciousness, bliss, name and form. It's all that. Not separate at all. It's the one essence, but we divided it. But have a look at it. Are you divided from it? Are you existing right now? And you'll say yes. Are you unaware or unconscious right now? No. You're not unaware, no, not unconscious. Are you happy to be right now? Yes, you wouldn't be dead right now if somebody come along and wanted to shoot you. No matter how miserable you might be, you wouldn't want to be dead. So you are already that. Already.
Yes.
Existence, consciousness. Another way of putting it is being, knowing, and loving to be. Are you being right now?
Yeah.
Yes. You are being, you're not wasing, or you're not will be. You've only got this immediacy, you are being right now.
Yeah.
And are you unaware? No, you are knowing right now. That awareness is a knowingness.
Yeah.
And you're happy to be. So again, it's pointing that you already are that. Why do we persist in taking on this believed entity, this believed sense of separation, and moved away from being into trying to become? If you do this practice or do this meditation or repeat this mantra, you will become. That's what we're told. And becoming implies the future time. But you try and get away from this immediacy right now that you actually are. Try and get away from the actuality. You can postulate or think of a time when you will be, or go back into the past and try and recall a time, but you can't actually live in the past or live in the future. You've never moved away from this immediacy. So it's always this presence awareness. And it can be hidden or disguised by the words or the concepts we put upon it. What, questions?
Oh, yeah. You happy to?
Yeah. I'm just rambling on. You want to know now?
No, I didn't want to interrupt you because... Yeah, so hi everyone and Happy New Year. I'll start from the middle because the front ones are already gone, but I have the questions here from Tanya. Dear Bob and Kat, I would like you to help with looking at this belief I experience the world, which is out there, outside the body, and I experience it through the body's senses. I know there is no separate I or me, but sometimes things seem like they are outside or experienced through the body's senses. I notice there is no experience of eyes seeing, ears hearing, nose smelling, etc. Yeah, good point to notice that for the start.
Yeah. Well, if you are that pattern, shape and form that's appearing in the space-like awareness, is there an outside to it? Is there an inside to it? Is there an outside to space? Is there a centre to space? Is there an inside to space? There can't be. And you are the content of space. It's only the belief that there is an outside or an inside. Try and find a static point in that body if you can. There might be a sensation. You might believe it's in the heart, in the solar plexus, in the head, or behind the eyes. Have a look. Go into it and see if you can find a static point there where it's seemingly solid. And when you go into it, if it's physical, you'll find a physical pain there, but there's no physical static point to the body. If the physical is a sign all's not well with the body, it's pointing out that something needs to be done. But if it's thought up or psychological, it has no substance or any independent nature at all. So you can't find it. That's why I say, if you're looking for it, really look into it. Really look into where this seeming sensation or feeling is. It might be a seeming knot in the stomach or an ache in the heart or something in the head. Go there and try and look. And when you're looking into it, put all your energy into looking at it. But then while you're putting this energy into it, have a look where you're looking at it from. Now, if that is the centre that you are, that you think you're looking at, and you're looking at it from somewhere else, mustn't it point out that it's not the centre at all, because you're looking at it from somewhere else? Then you go to that somewhere else where you think you're looking at it from and see where you're looking at that from. And you'll see you're looking at that from somewhere else. And what you're looking at, those sensations there, they will dissolve if you put your energy into trying to look for them, if they're not real. If they're real and there's something physically wrong with you, you'll soon know it. But the psychological stuff has got no substance or any independent nature when it's investigated.
Also, I think this is beautiful. I love, Tanya, how you answer your own questions or give a hints and share them, because they will be useful for everyone. That's what you have noticed, that it feels like the outside world is experienced through bodily senses, but you notice that there is no direct experience of eyes seeing, or nose smelling, or ear hearing. There is no direct experience. The experience, without any concepts put on it, is just the seeing, the space of the gaze. That's the direct experience. That's what's happening. The seeing's happening. In that seeing, the concept comes that this is the I here inside the body, and there is the world out there outside the body. This is conceptual division. Direct experience says seeing. Conceptual division says duality, subject-object. Same with smelling. Let's say I'm smelling the rose. I smell every single flower I pass through. This is a gardenia. Ah, yum. So it feels like, and it's in the language, it says like, I am smelling the gardenia. I'm smelling a beautiful fragrance. But really what's happening, the fragrance is happening. The detecting or sensing fragrance is happening. But who is doing it, and what it and is all conceptual. It is all the thinking. When you stop thinking, in the non-conceptual awareness, there is just fragrance. If you look, here we have the cat. You probably won't see it now. Come, darling. Oh, there is a baby. And this baby, when he smells the liver, he doesn't say there is me smelling it. There is a smell appearing in the awareness. And there is an action following. The body is moved to address that whatever the fragrance is. So this is the natural functioning. The conceptualizing on top of it is beautiful, is brilliant, is to be enjoyed. When you know that the conceptual division is just the conceptual division, you love it. You love that you can communicate with others. You love that you have personal story. You love that you can relate to the past. There's only beauty in it. But you know it's a mirage. It doesn't mean a mirage is not beautiful. You know it's a rainbow, you can't grasp it. But you can still admire, bow down to it. It's gorgeous. So the fact that, and I love when Bob brings up the analogy that the sea doesn't stop appearing blue when you realize that the water is clear and transparent. It still appears blue. So even though you realize there is no division, there is just seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, and it still appears as there is a me looking out there, from here out there, me experiencing the world outside. Just like sea appears to be blue, there appears to be a division. Because if there was no appeared or perceived division, if everything was white, there would be nothing and there would be no white. Like, there has to be the diversity for the experience to be possible. There has to be a duality, two ends of the stick, and that's something to do with a love of being. You love every form of being, even though it appears dualistically, and we seem to be longing for the freedom from duality, from that game of. I spoke with a friend last night who was in a big. Like being really sick of seeking, really sick of that game of extremes, of the extreme elation and extreme grief, and dark night of the soul and the bliss of the realization. He says, I know the reality is beyond it. I'm sick of that game. Well, that's the way it is. Get on with it, because there will be days and nights. There will be winters and summers. Resisting the duality, wanting to get rid of the duality. Who is there? Who wants what is not? And that was this beautiful quote I read to you from the book I got from Sharna. This was a Kabir who says, the more sorrow carve into the core of your being, the more joy you can contain. If you feel fully, you feel the whole duality. If you appreciate the joy, you appreciate the sorrow. That's the freedom. Everything can actually be seen for what it is, and can be loved for what it is. Because if not for the sorrow, there would be no joy.
As I pointed out earlier, no, it can't be a subject without an object. Can't be an object without the subject.
Yes. And
Can't be good without bad. It can't be pleasure without pain. But the division is only seemingly so. It's the same stick.
that's right. And now we got John David. Several of my loved ones have COVID. It is easy to go into thinking and labeling that this is bad and blah blah blah. COVID is only a label. Could Bob speak of this?
Yes, that's all it is. It's a label that's well, the disease is there. That's part of the functioning also.
Yeah. Yeah, Bob has been through many diseases himself. Throughout the 92 years. Tanya says, I hope they recover from COVID soon, John.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. And Amarnath says, nothing ever happened or will happen from the perspective of self. Once you know the concept of I am, world is fun. That's from Nisargadatta. Yeah, COVID is a label, but yes, definitely there is this aspect of being a human pattern in which the disease, the debilitating disease, or the grief, or the depression, or the losing your limb in the accident, or dying in any sense of loss is part of that adventure, is part of that human experience, part of that sorrow which carved through your being so that you can contain joy. And I tell you, I nearly lost my father to COVID. He went in a hospital, both sides of the lungs completely, almost shutting themselves out. And he's got kidney failure since 6 years. So it was pretty rough and tough on him. He just got out a week ago. And there's many of people in my country also who struggle with it. I see constantly pictures of hospitals and recovery. Yeah, that's how life is expressing itself right now. That's what is manifestation playing out. And let's face it, without the sickness, who would appreciate health? I remember myself being quite young and quite oblivious to what the sickness is for a long time. Taking health for granted and abusing the body. Yeah, it's...
It would help if they could see themselves as complete anyway.
Yes.
But they can't. We take it to believe it's there, all it's seemingly there, so...
And you're right, it's easy to get into the resistance, into the judgment. I find it absolutely amazing when I look at the social media, how many experts of both extreme opinions are amongst my friends. They seem to know more than the epidemiologists know. They seem to know more on whatever the topic, wearing masks or not wearing masks, or about politics. Everyone is so opinionated and such a fanatical believer of one or the other conspiracy or anything, any concept. There is no humility of, without the label, what is it? I don't know. Do I need to know? And if I do know conceptually, what do I really know? Am I repeating somebody else's opinion or concept or expertise? Is it really my thought? Is it really worthy of defending and fighting for? We don't really know. The one thing that you may actually give to the people who are struggling, give them a space, give them a reflection, give them a loving reflection of their own true nature. As Bob just said, if they recognize themselves as complete, it's probably easier to mend the disease.
The one essence, patterning, shaping, forming, and expressing.
Yeah.
As it says, one of the statements in the Bible, it's talking about that essence that you are, let it go before me to make the crooked places straight. or 1,000 shall fall on my left side and 1,000 on my right, but it will not come nigh my dwelling place. If you're not going conceptualising, how can they let it in? I come in to say, I don't like to say these things to those that are suffering and those with it, because also people need to recognise as much as possible their own true nature.
Yeah.
Then there's no disease in the world that you can be locked into, even as it happens. You know, it's just a natural functioning of that intelligence energy.
Yeah, and it's even in dying of the cells of the body, dying of the cells that have the virus has attacked, dying of bacteria and viruses. Even the dying is part of waking up from the dream.
And the virus itself is life.
It is.
Needs somewhere to live and express through.
Yes. Yes, and we still honor the pain and suffering because, yeah, it carves to the essence of your being, so the joy can be contained. It is beautiful, and it accelerates, let's face it, very often suffering, whatever the matter, whatever the source of suffering, it facilitates the contemplation and investigation.
Yeah, I can say a lot of things here that can be pulled apart, but I know here what I don't say and what I know, and let that happen. Takes me where I've got to go.
This is the comment from Amarnath, similar to the one that you just quote the Bible. Millions of die in wars. Nothing happens to Jnani as in dream or mirage in a desert. Even he kill millions of people in war, he is not affected as he is non-doer. This is from Ramana Maharshi. Yeah, similar to a dream at night. We don't, I woke up from, I had three dreams that I remember tonight. One of the dreams, there was a strong sense of loss because I was a young girl and another young girl was heartbroken because she was in love with my boyfriend, and I basically told her to actually fight if she thinks that's the one. And sense of her loss and sense of my loss was real, was emotionally as real as anything that you experience in life, and you respect it and you love it and you let it be. Whatever happens, whatever shows up, is a dance of Shakti or dance of Maya, yes, it is a mirage, like Amarnath says after Ramana Maharshi. It is the illusion. It is. But it's as beautiful as it can be. Even the film or the theater play makes you cry. Why? It's not real, but it's beautiful. And feeling fully is part of that human adventure. Barbara, life happens. It is impersonal, as there is only life itself. We are moved the only way we can be moved in the moment.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
And that virus is life.
Yes. It's a part of the movement. Amarnath, dear Bob, can you speak on self and non-self? Body, mind, intellect, senses, ego, please.
Well, there's only one self.
Or no self.
It's the Atman or self. There is no personal self. And we make it personal instead of realising it's the one self. It's self-aware, it's self-knowing, it's self-seeing, it's self-hearing. It's that one self that's expressing, patterning, shaping, forming as everything. But we've labelled it as myself.
Yeah.
As soon as there's myself, we've separated ourselves from the one into the personal. And it's the personal that causes all the problems.
Yeah.
For it's only me that can be fearful, only me can be anxious, full of self-pity and resentful. Me is the cause of all the psychological problems. As I said, there's no subject without an object, and there's no object without a subject. There's no me without the other, and there's no other without the me.
Yes.
Now that's the way it appears to be separate, but it's a totality. It never was separate, never will be separate, never can be. It is absolute, and every so-called thing is contained in the absolute. There can be nothing outside of it or apart from it. That's the non-dual essence of everything.
And you can call it self,
Yeah.
ultimate self, or you can call it no self. It is just the label. Whether you call it one or the other is just a label. There is no two things. Like there is a self and there is an absence of self. Those are all ideas, all concepts. Unless you define self as a thing, then absence of the thing will be the opposite. But really the way it is used or pointed out, the self, which of the teachings call it a self? I think it's a mind, they call it mind. Dzogchen or Zen, they call it mind, that everything is the mind. And we can say no mind. It is just what you agree upon as a pointer. You can call it the cognizing emptiness, that's also a pointer. Or you can call it all that is just one absolute self, or the impersonal self, or no self. Either way.
Yeah, they call it no mind. I mean, with no mind, it's a mind free of thoughts.
Yes.
Or in other words, it's pure mind, it's just pure awareness.
Yes.
Thought free, ever fresh, ever new.
Yeah. So one self or one mind, or no self or no mind, whatever works, whatever kind of shifts you, whatever resonates with the heart, whichever pointer.
And there'd be no manifestation if there wasn't something separate from it to view it or see it, seeming separate from it.
Yeah.
It'd be just that pure awareness, which it is.
Now, Barbara, awareness is a knowingness, aliveness.
Exactly.
Beautiful. Richard, essentially what Krishna said to Arjuna. This was, I think, about the wars, what Ramana Maharshi was saying. Yeah. Yeah, well, you play a part.
What did I say? If the slayer thinks he slays and the slain thinks he is slain. Tells it all.
Now, Amarnath, beautiful, smelling, smeller trio, it's created by the mind. These three are transcendent, and Jnani makes fun as the only one self, non-dual awareness, becoming hologram as many, but still appearance or sensual perception remains the same as mirage in the desert. Concepts seen as concepts only, not as reality.
Yeah, that's how we say. Like when we say, there's thinking going on. But what's your next thought going to be, you don't know.
Yes.
So, but you put on the thinking is happening, the thoughts are coming up, and you say, oh, I think. You formed a subject, a thinker.
Yes.
And I think this thought. Well, the thinker and the thought are one and the same thing. Can there be a thinker without thinking? There can't be. There can be a thought where there's no thinking going on. No, there can't be. Seer and seen, hearer and heard. What we're talking about before, awareness and everything else. It's all divided conceptually. And then the vision is somewhat of a movement of vibration. And look at the way the mind functions, good, bad, pleasant, painful, happy, sad, loving, hating. Day, night, winter, summer. All dividing the indivisible. And it's all happening in the mind. The thing we call mind. But nobody can show me a thing called mind. And that's the label we put on it. My mind. Who takes delivery of the mind? Who's the me? This believed in person, persona, the masked conceptual image, thinks I am. I am is a sense of presence, a way of describing the sense of presence. But we think it's something real. Person is not real.
Tanya, thank you, Bob and Kat. Inside and outside is only a thought, no solid center found. Good point that it only appears that the seeing comes from the body, still digesting all the lovely pointers from the body. Still digesting all the lovely pointers, yes. Yeah, it will still appear this way, and thank God. Isn't it amazing? Its appearance is amazing. Amarnath, Kabir quote I loved. The more suffering, more will be joy as duality. Self is beyond the both. Jane, watching you two from Tas Place today, having a day to myself. So good to be here. Love to you and Tas. Enjoy. Richard, non-doership. The claim I did that, I thought that, by the egoic or constructed self violates the biblical commandment, thou shalt not steal. Oh, brilliant.
Thank you, Richard.
Beautiful.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you here. Yes, and that's such a beautiful, I love that. Claiming I did that, thought I did that, egoic, constructed self violate biblical commandment. Yeah, taking credit. Stealing God's work. I did it. No, you didn't. You are so brilliant. And Jane, love to you both and love to all. Thank you. Jane, and it is true that division is only a thought, not reality. Yep, it's only conceptual. Without thinking, there is no. Amarnath, very sorry to know, Kat, about your father's demise. Oh, thank you for that. Yeah, he's all right. He's amazing. He's an amazing man who is keeping his serenity. He's been on the other side for a moment because of the kidneys, and he's got no fear of dying. And yes, he still has a quality of life, even though he's doing dialysis every other day. Thank you. And John David says, thank you, Bob and Kat, love you, and we love you too. And Johannes, life just happened, and we are not in control in any of the appearances. An empty dance out of nothing. Beautifully said. Amarnath, suffering accelerates investigation and search for the self. Cat Adams. And nice icons. Tanya, I noticed this morning that thoughts appearing are saying as much about reality as birds tweeting. Thoughts can be beautiful, but most seem to be meaningless, and no thought can accurately describe what is. Yeah, that's a nice comparison. Seeing thought as another noise, you know. Birds are actually quite cheerful. You can even see it as a traffic. It depends on the thought. And yeah, if you want to believe one, get 3 opposites of it and try and believe all. If the thought is telling you that, you're looking, let's say, whatever, or that one thinks about you, whatever, just bring the opposite and see how nonsensical it is.
Thought, free, presence awareness. Yeah. Just this, nothing else. Let the thought be free.
Yeah.
Don't try and grasp it or fixate on it. Try to grasp it with a concept, as Nisargadatta says, and you fail. He says you're bound to fail because it's non-conceptual.
Yes. Yeah, you either just disregard all the thinking or include all of it. That will be equally disregarding. Everything or nothing, they really the same thing. Don't believe one particular stance, don't take stance anywhere. If you want to include a thought or believe a thought, take them all in. See how they overwhelm the system, and computer will stop, and you end up in a peace that passeth the all understanding. And Richard, the original sin has to be the claim of doership. Brilliant, beautiful. Yeah, Bob is looking at original sin as eating from the tree of knowing good and evil. So labeling, this is good, this is bad. But of course with it goes straight away, it is good or bad for who? For me. So the claiming that I know, that's the basically the continuation of the same thought. Claim of the doership, original sin. Yeah, good one. Amarnath. Thanks a million, Bob, for making fun of personal self, or division doesn't exist at all. Yeah, making it light, that's always good. Thinker equals thought, Sailor Bob Adamson. Beautiful blast, and of course a lot of nice icons. Nicholas, the bad habit of my mind is so strong, but every time when I listen to Bob, I feel the serenity here. Beautiful. And that's it for now, but I got few screenshots from what was happening just before, when you were still giving us a spiel, so I'll see if I can. Yes, we have one which appeared initially. Happy New Year from Amarnath. Dear Bob, can you explain the paradox in self-realization? Without investigation and efforts, you can't reach the self at the same time. After inquiry and surrender, we need to drop off or let go false investigator and effort, putting personality to have self-realization.
Well, some people it just comes up naturally. They recognise.
Yeah, but there is a seeming paradox that we say that you have to investigate, and then once you realize there is no you. So who was investigating? It seems like there is a paradox here.
Yeah. If you is the one, and then it's still only the one. You call it you or my, you put those labels on.
You just realize that you've been taking credit for the investigation. You have never done a thing. Like you're taking credit for the seeing. The investigation happens, the inquiry happens, the contemplation happens. Who does it? Not you, because you is not real. You may think it is you. Initially, you may believe it is you, the little controller inside there that decides to contemplate.
Well, if you look at it this way, I am you, you are I.
Yeah, so there is a seeming paradox, but really there isn't one. The paradox comes from taking credit for what has never been yours at the first place. The investigation seems like the ego is starting, or the mind is starting it. But mind or ego doesn't really have any power to do anything. So it really is always the consciousness that uses the mind or uses the ego, one could say, uses the inspiration taken out from someone who was pointing, or is moved, life is moved to do things. And part of it is a habit of taking credit. I did it. But then you realize there was no I. So, well, who did that? There's never any I. It's not that the I drops today, right now, but yesterday there was still an I. No, the moment it drops, you realize that it has never been real. It doesn't even drop. It just gets revealed. It just shows up that under the mask is nothing. There's just empty shell of phantom. And now I wonder if we yes, we had this one already. I took screenshot. There was all the happy, beautiful, happy now, sweet one, Barbara says. In the answer of the Happy New Year's, we got happy now. Happy now, and the happiness to all from Alvaro. Thank you. And flashes on the screen, Barbara said. That's what the appearance is, the fireworks of a new year.
And the screen was never contaminated or corrupted.
Yes, I think that is it. See if we have any more. Yes, Amarnath. Belief gives power to mind. Belief gives power to mind. Investigation takes off its power. Mind doesn't exist at all. And Johannes, the ghost hunting the ghost. Yes. Yeah, belief seemingly gives power. The power of belief is the same power of life. It's the same energy because there's only one in different forms. Now you can continue the spiel because we've answered all the questions. For now, if there will be more questions, I'll call up for them. We go back to the spiel.
What's where was up to with the spiel?
The God is the Word.
Yeah. And the word's not the thing.
No.
And the way is beyond language.
Yes.
There's no yesterday, no tomorrow, no today. Without the word, there is no thing. Yeah.
We've got another Happy New Year wish from Shirley. MJ. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Tell us about time.
What time?
1st of January, 2nd of January, 3rd of January, no today, no yesterday, no tomorrow.
No tomorrow, no today. Yeah. Time is a mental concept, yeah. Is there a past? Time implies past and future. Duration. Is there a past if you don't think about it?
No.
No. But you'll say, oh, I was in the past. Well, prove it to yourself. Try and live yesterday. Try and live last week. And when all these seeming dramas and traumas went on, and you were so unhappy and so depressed, try and live them. Go back and live them. You can recall them, but it won't be exactly the same as it was when you're living it. And your recollection of them, you might have added something to or taken something off. You'll have a different concept about it. So, and have a look, what was your thought a minute ago? If you don't, you can't say what you thought a minute ago unless you recall it.
Yes.
So you can't go back and live it. You can't live any time in the past. you can recall it, and the only actuality you're giving it is what you're recalling right now, and that'll be fresh and new. It won't be, it'll be recalling of it. It won't be fresh and new living of it again. But you can anticipate and imagine the future. But you can't live a moment in the future either. And when you're anticipating and imagining what you're going to do when this finishes, it won't be it. It'll be different when it does finish, you know. So, you see that time itself is a mental concept. And we've got so much vested interest in it that it causes big problems with it. Who to? To the believed conceptual entity that is time-bound. I was born. I will die. That thought, if you are that thought, all I is a thought. And then I say that thought wasn't born until you were about 2.5, when you learnt the words I and me. What about those 2.5 years without the word? What can you say about it?
Yeah.
It's the words that form what try and translate all this seeming happenings that are going on, seemingly so. But it's all just as a transient vibration of energy. Transient means it's constantly changing. Nothing static about it. It's continually changing. It's beginningless and endless.
Tanya says your silence was singing, and Johannes. So when I drop all reference points are gone, no time, no matter, no mind, no perception, and nothing to perceive.
Exactly, but you haven't disappeared. You haven't stopped breathing. Your heart hasn't stopped beating. Your hair and fingernails haven't stopped growing. Your food hasn't stopped being digested. But you're not putting any concepts or labels on it. The livingness, the life, is functioning spontaneously, naturally and effortlessly. Just like the sun is rolling, the earth is rolling around the sun right now. There's no big daddy up there pulling or over, turning it over with a handle. It's rolling around by itself. Planets are forming, imploding, exploding, galaxies are changing. It's all spontaneous, natural functioning. It's all contained in this moment, spontaneously. But we stretch it out and think it's time. Like your dream. How long does a dream last? When they put the measurements on it, they say it lasts just a few seconds, if that.
Now we have a request from Nicholas. Bob, please tell us the time when you were a watchman in Melbourne. During that time, do you still got the mind attacks?
When was I work out when? No, I had this understanding there. The thoughts were still there to that extent. They hadn't, you know, they weren't bothering me as much. And I wasn't getting into arguments or fights with this one or that one. As much as possible, I reckon it was spontaneously happening to let things go. But each time, from then on, or before that even, it always gets clearer as, I can't say time because I just negated time. In the spontaneousness of it, less clouds in the sky come up. And clouds obscure the sun. The sun, you use the term the sun is life. Life seems to be the brilliance or the brightness of the sun is obscured by the cloud. But the clouds are thinned out and they become less, and there's more clarity. And now if thoughts have happened, they're not bothering. Some might get fixated on for a little while, but it's no big deal anymore, because the absolute certainty is that it's not stitched into the head. There's no thought stitched there, and it's going to move on. And who knows what the next thought goes, because there's no thinker of the thought. Thoughts are inspired with the breath. That's where inspiration comes from. People say, I had a great inspiration. That thought came in with the breath. And when you're not, breathe the thought out, let the thought go out with the breath, instead of keeping it fixed in the head for it to proliferate and more thoughts to go, let it go out with the breath. You expire.
And also, I'll just add this one, with the thoughts that never stop appearing, or maybe they will for a prolonged times, but if they do appear, they're not yours. Because once you realize that there is no you, the thoughts are just like any other noises outside the head. If the thoughts are going here, let's say they help you remember the shopping place. I mean, that's still a thought, that's a functional thought. Or they entertain you with a little bit of a tune humming, or they're thoughts, but they're not yours. They're completely impersonal. They're practical. And you don't have to get rid of them. There is nothing, they are not harmful because you don't believe them. Even if the thought will come that you are worthless, which I doubt they will once you know there is no use, they wouldn't even show up. But even if they did, you wouldn't believe them. You wouldn't take them seriously, because
all thoughts are a vibration, a movement of energy. And they can be like singing streams in the memory.
yes.
So gliding along.
And there is this movement contains Amarnath. This movement contains millions of years. Here contains the whole of universe. I contain everyone, including gods and animal world. Yet there is no here me, and now beautiful paradox. Now beautiful paradox and the beautiful icons. Yeah, everything that is within the field of awareness, and you are the field of awareness, is within you. The animals, the planets, the skies, whatever you can think of, imagine, all of it is within the field of awareness, and you are the awareness. Happy New Now, Carmen says. And Nicholas, thank you, Bob. Right, no big deal anymore. How cool.
Yeah.
Go on. Yeah.
What? Oh, I just sit back and listen.
To the silence.
Now in the silence, what's coming through the so-called people who are listening. They're pointing it out from their own understanding, own recognition. And that's how it goes. Initially, we were locked into the belief we were separate, but people are recognising their true nature, so-called people, and are telling me about it. And it resonates here because it's recognised here again. And it warms the heart to see that recognition, to see the changes.
Yeah, so I will just add this one. Bob has shared with me. He had a couple of one-on-one appointments here at home because it's allowed right now, even though we can't have groups because of the masks. He also had quite a few Skype calls, all really bright and lucid, all really warming the heart. He would be going out. I usually leave the house. I leave the space for them, so they have Bob exclusively, unless there is a request for us both to be present, like we have a Skype call, both of us in an hour. He comes up elated, happy, seeing that reflection of the true nature in so many people lately, more and more, is beautiful. So if you feel like giving him that beautiful reflection and having a quick call and just telling how you're doing, and maybe clearing one or two doubts, but generally just seeing what works and reflecting that beautiful understanding, and just find him. It's what a gift.
Richard sounds pretty good today.
Yeah, brilliant.
I detect a change in Richard.
Yeah. Now we have one more from D. I gathered from a while back that you believe in predestination for the body mind. Oh, interesting. We didn't know that we believe in predestination. I don't think we do. Which would mean that anyone who appreciates the teachings just happened to have been selected to do by universal forces. Is that the view? Absolutely not. You answer it. Predestination for who?
Yeah. What's that? That's another concept of time, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, you want to elaborate on that?
Can't think of anything at the moment.
Yeah, well, okay, I'll just drop a couple of words which are your words. The predestination, idea of predestination, is wrong from the core. First of all, it assumed that there is something solid like linear time, which is nonsensical. Linear time is totally imagined, and it exists only when you're thinking. When you stop thinking, time disappears, predestination disappears. Another nonsensical base is that there is a you that has been chosen, and that you, no matter what it is, what's going to happen in some future, which is ridiculous, nonsensical, non-existent, will achieve something that is nothing to achieve. Not only there is no you, there is no future, there is nothing to achieve. Predestination is an idea that may help people with some fixed sort of a position of, I don't really know when it can be helpful. Maybe it can, but we don't really subscribe to that idea, because there's so many wrong bases on which it comes up. In the timelessness, in the timeless now, everything unfolds spontaneously. Nothing is predetermined, nothing is predestined, and everything collaborates in the unfolding. So it is the truth that no matter what I do, because there is no I, but also I am not the doer. Whatever comes out of my mind is a collaboration of the whole universe. It's the diet, the temperature, the influence of Bob, my parents, my school, all of it is the result of that collaboration is the spontaneous unfoldment.
Ever fresh and new.
Yes. So there is no predestination at all. There is a spontaneity of the timeless now. That's but yeah, I mean, you know, you got that impression. Quite often people get different things projected on the teachings, because as you see, speaking on non-duality, talking about unspeakable is naturally so vague and so confusing that you're totally not to be blamed to hear it this way. Totally, it's totally perfectly fine. It's probably some, again, the universe collaborating, and some ideas heard or brought from somewhere else mixed up and resonating with word or two, creating the impression that this is the message. No, it's not, but you're totally innocent in hearing or reading it this way. And I'm sorry if we were confusing at times and it lead you to believe that. But yeah, it's not the case. It's rather the spontaneity than any predetermination or predestination. And spontaneity is unpredictable because it's infinite amount of factors which contribute to the next moment as it unfolds. And now we've got, now we've got another answer. Amarnath, Bob and Kat, your blessings and grace is infinite. Initially, I used to read John Wheeler and Bob's book, wanted to meet personally, but COVID made these beautiful Sunday meetings. You are always in our hearts, working eternally as stillness, spontaneous ever freshness, and the beautiful icons again. Thank you, Amarnath. Yeah, find Bob on Skype. You've got such a beautiful understanding. How nice it will be to actually get that reflection closer from seeing your face. And Amarnath, perception happens, but there is no projection or thought chain at all. Yep. Yeah. If the projecting happens, that's also part of the happening. And Rohan, Bob and Kat, so grateful to you both. Stuff still comes up, but the sting is gone. In just asking the question, who is this? And looking, there is a relief. And Rohan, we absolutely love your reflection. Yes, it's beautiful. The inputs you bring, the aspects you bring. Bob can speak of one aspect, I speak of another, and you bring the yet another one, and the dance is just beautiful. Thank you.
There's nothing there.
No.
I've got to kick-start the thinking, get it going again. Fall into silence naturally and effortlessly.
Yes, and Tanya says, I'm finding the same, Rohan. And we can feel it, Tanya. That's wonderful too. And Tanya says, so much gratitude here also, and I'm feeling more able to express what is seen. And
Good.
You're doing it beautifully too.
Yeah. That's how it grows in you.
And Catherine, or maybe James, that which never was will always be. Beautiful. And Bobcat, grace and at work, Johannes, thank you.
What was it?
Johannes says, Bob and Cat, grace at work. Happy to wrap up?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you everyone for
thank you,
beautiful
everyone.
contribution, and Happy New Now, Happy New Year, ever fresh.
The heart warms in hearing what's coming over.
Yes. Yes, just this is the most beautiful reflection, the most beautiful gift. For 45 years of Bob's work, to have you now coming up so bright. It hasn't always been like this. It has been a rough path. Often people were coming and not hearing much, and now it kind of seems like a quickening.
Yeah.
It really seems this way, and it's so beautiful.
It is beautiful. And you can't help but love you.
Can't help but love you. Thank you. And so much beauty and love shining through, so much gratitude, Sally says, and Bill sending love, and Dee. So if someone kicks their toe, science would probably say that at the commencement of this creation, various forces led to this event inevitably. Are you saying it is a completely different paradigm? One could say it is completely the same paradigm, but amount of forces that contributes to it is infinite. So science doesn't deal with infinite. Science can collaborate or can come up with, let's say, like, I used to drive ships. I used to be a ship's navigator, and we used to calculate the wind or the waves and include 5 factors, 7 factors in a very, very complicated equation, 12 factors. But you can't include infinite. You can't calculate infinite. Infinity, that's why we call it spontaneous, because it's totally incalculable. It's not a predetermination, because not only infinite amount of factors, but this infinite amount of factors is changing. Infinite doesn't mean it is a very high number that was always still and the same. No, it's alive and changing. It's
Infinity.
But it's good point.
Infinity is right now, beginningless and endless.
Yeah.
Timeless, spaceless,
Mm-hmm.
bodiless, mindless.
Yeah. Yeah, so it is the same paradigm, but it is a little bit straightened up with the vocabulary, because infinite amount of factor is incalculable. It is beyond the science. That's why I think Nisargadatta came from that, with that word, that it is spontaneous, because infinite amount of interaction between the factors is totally incalculable. Just like, even incalculable is the way the brain interprets the neural networks with the electric signals going through that huge, bigger than the whole galaxy amount of the connections. So we can try and approach it with science and write equation with infinite amount of variables, but call it spontaneous, make it simpler. But yeah, I see a point. I see why you would come with the predetermination. And Tanya, thank you, Bobcat. All lovely expressions of the one essence. Love you all. Glad that it is such a gift to you, to your selfless service, Bob and Kat. And thank you, and thank you, and thank you, and thank you. And Dale, thank you, Bob and Kat, and everyone. Love thoughts are inspired. Let them expire on the out breath. Beautiful. Self-infinite is at core, science is at periphery as finite. Self-infinite is at core, science is at periphery as finite. Yeah, one could say it this way. Yeah, totally. But yeah, I totally get where Dee was coming from. So yeah, you weren't that far out after all. My mistake. It's just that we often hear about predetermination, and it is explained completely differently than you just got with your example with stubbing your toe and all the universal forces since the Big Bang collaborating for this moment to be the way it is. That's kind of more like it. But I don't know is still the best. I don't know is still the best. Not trying to grasp it with the mind, not trying to explain it with words. It's just being amazed, just feeling with the core of your being, appreciating with the core of your essence, just feeling and seeing through the heart rather than through the mind. Although it is exciting to understand things and to explain things, no wonder. That's of course. Now is the time.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. See you next time. And thank you for the contribution.
Thank you. Love you all.
Love you all.